live with the folks in their home offices. So welcome to the meeting. We'd like to start by having roll call.
Terry Berryman.
Jennifer Everett, proxy.
Gary Gibson.
Here.
Jeff Pointer.
Here.
Julie Courtney. Here. Darcy Buckles.
Here.
Michael Williams. Kathy Day.
Here.
Janet Berthold. Tracy McDonald. Mary Beth Marshall.
Here.
Sue Clark. Here. Karen Nordington Reeves. Marta Serta. Al Solis. Jennifer Stash. Evelyn Diaz. Joanna Green. Susan Flessner. Pat Farah. LaDonna Russell. Dana Washington. Pam Furlan. Chuck Stewart. Jeanette Dawson. Blanche Shoup. Here. Bashir Ali.
Bruce Morrison for Bashir Ali.
Paula Nachtribe. Here. Gary Chitu.
Here.
Steve Martin.
Here.
Al Anderson. Brian Hengsken. Robin McCoy.
Here.
Karen Allen. Here. Ann Schneider. Here. Mike Scheer.
Here.
Vicki Librandt.
Vice Chair for Vicki Librandt.
Dave Stecklin.
Here.
Matt Jones.
Here.
Jerry Schulte. Kevin Pierce.
Here.
Linda Nicholson. Kathy Lively. Michelle Cerruti. Tiffany Collins. Pamela Barbie.
Okay, and online we have Michael Williams, Pat Farah.
Okay, just a second. Mike, wait. Pat Farah.
Pat Farah, Brian Henskin,
Okay.
Jerry Selecti, and Melinda Nicholson so far.
Okay.
So we need 23 for quorum.
We got it way over.
Great.
Okay, we have a quorum. Once again, for the folks tuning in from your home offices, we're trying meeting one this time, I believe. Is that the
Yes.
system we're using? So we think this will work the most smooth, and so please give us your feedback after the meeting. But you do have a welcome portion on your screen. You're looking. If you have any questions, you can certainly use the chat because we do have your phones muted. All right, a draft copy of the minutes went out with the agenda. Everybody had a time to review them, and I'm looking for a motion to approve.
So moved.
Okay, second? All right, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? You'll let me know if that passes with the folks at home.
Check here.
Lisa Jones is supposed to be joining us from DCEO. She's not here yet, so we'll just continue on with the meeting, and when she comes, we'll let her have the floor. Under President's comments, I just have a few things I'd like to mention. Our retreat is coming up May 23rd and 24th. It's at the Embassy Suites in Peoria. It will start Wednesday, the 23rd. We'll go from like noon to 4, and then Thursday from 8 to 3. So I hope you'll make an attempt to come. Jim Del Carmen will be our retreat facilitator again. This will be the 3rd year, so he knows us pretty well, and he really helps us get through in a timely manner and gives us some really solid goals to work towards in the next year. So I'm sure he will be sending some information out. He's usually asking for feedback from the membership, so he does a lot of prep work, of which we're very thankful because we don't waste any time, let's put it that way. So if you can even join us for the half-a-day Wednesday or half-a-day Thursday, I would encourage you to come. So Paula has been kind enough to kind of plan an outing for us on Wednesday evening, going to O'Brien Field to watch the baseball game with the Peoria Chiefs. We'll have a batter's box, and there's a shuttle service from the hotel. So please plan on joining us for that too. And I'll be sending out an email next week with the information because we do need at least 20 folks in order to have this batter's box area, which is kind of a separate area with the covering and a bar. So we hope to at least get 20 of you folks to come to the retreat. I also wanted to mention the Heartland Conference. I don't know if everybody's gotten an email on that, but it is going to be June 14th and 15th in Chicago, so I'm sure registration information will be out shortly. As you know, that's the DOL Region 5 and NAWB that are co-sponsoring it this year. They have at least a rough agenda Thursday looking at boards of excellence, the Washington update, and I think Friday is probably a little more programmatic, but it should still be a really good conference, so please try to come, especially since it's in Chicago. Yesterday at our meeting, for those of you not here, I do have copies of the handouts that I will send out to everybody again on Monday, but obviously this is something we've been wanting to pay attention to and to increase the number of success stories on there. So I think they've been pretty accommodating in their flexibility of doing that. So, you know, we'll be talking more about this, but I'll send that information out so you can start using that right away. And lastly, I wanted to mention that we did have a conversation yesterday on all the WIA reauthorization bills that are floating around, and there is a Help Committee hearing on Tuesday, April 17th, at 9 o'clock Central that will be broadcast live. I think you can just go on the DOL website or the Senate website and access that. So there is not a list of the people giving testimony yet, but that should be out, I would think, since you know, Tuesday's right around the corner. So we are also giving input back to NAWB. Ron Painter had sent out an email asking, again, what we liked, what we didn't like, and Pam spent a great deal of time, which I want to thank her profusely for, going through all the bills and kind of doing side-by-side on all of them. And while we didn't want to get down into the minutia of commenting, some of our, obviously our big three are adequate funding and stable funding, local control and a defined role for the chief elected official, and the grandfathering of the LWIAs, so no automatic redesignation. So our policy paper that was approved by our membership in February this year has been shared with Galita, and I believe adopted by the state of Missouri. So I think we should be proud of that. I think it was well received, and it certainly explains where the Illinois Workforce Partnership, where we stand on that. So. Question. The first question was, is there any follow-up on how the expenditure levels for first quarter of 2012 are to be reported to meet the limitation imposed for adult 7.64% and dislocated worker at 14.7? Ray's answer. Sorry, I have to put my glasses back on.
Verbatim, are you reading verbatim?
Yes. Yeah, well, I probably shouldn't, but I'm going to. This was not said at the last meeting. What was said is that we may have to use advanced funding from other local areas who don't need it in order to provide funding, advanced funding, to those who do need it.
You did say that.
It did say that.
Yeah,
Right.
they did say that there was going to be a way that we would report that, or I thought there was going to be some kind of follow-up with our fiscal people. In fact, I think that's what they said.
I think he wanted to know who was going to need the other money.
He did want to know that.
Yeah,
And did
but
that
there's
get...
been nothing else to
Yeah,
tell us
what
how
to
to report that, like how he wants, do we just say, yeah, we need it, or we haven't heard anything more, I think is what the question is. I don't know, it's not my question.
That's
but I think-
okay. Okay, so, all right, that's fine. I just need to know what it is, right, that he needs to, okay, so he's not done
Yeah, we just haven't heard
anything.
any more on how he wants
Okay.
to report it. If we
All right, so
need it
he
or
didn't
don't
read
need
the
it.
question.
Does he want us to email?
He's, next 2 weeks out, last day. Huh? On the way out. He's walking retired, right. Okay, so then you guys need a way to report whether or not you have extra money or you need extra money. Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
Okay, got it. So I'll email him and check duly, and then we can get that out. All right. Then he goes on to, he posts an email in here. Is being reduced again. What happens if the local area allotment for the first quarter of PY12 is less than their expenditures? They can't charge the excess expenditures against the 13 allotment, or can they? Does the state have any latitude in allotting the advanced funding to the local areas to prevent the over-expenditure of occurring as long as the LWIA receives its total allotment for the program year? Deb's answer back was, although the funds are for a full year's worth of activity, 12 funds are good for expenses incurred after October 1st, 2011 only, and 13 funds are good for expenses incurred after October 1st, 2012. The state needs to ensure that all local funds are funded timely. The law does not spell out how fiscal year and program year funds are to be distributed. So is that any more helpful?
Yep, there's mud.
There's mud?
Isn't it to you when you read it?
Oh, it's clear, yeah, but, you know, fiscal is not my strong suit, so I don't, but, okay, so bottom line is you guys need a way to report whether or not you need money, right?
That says you can't spend your advanced funds. Basically what that says.
Right. Okay. Sorry, that was kind of painful. I apologize. Okay, second question. Review of the waivers. All right, we asked for 7 waivers. The first three waivers on conducting evaluations, disseminating training provider performance information, and local incentives were 3 that DOL had issued in a TEGL. Those are tied to statewide activities that are required. And DOL had issued a TEGL, I think back in September or October, that said they would grant states a waiver from doing those things because of the reduction in the 15% funding. So those are 3 waivers we asked for. We also asked for an OJT waiver for a sliding scale reimbursement up to 90%. So hopefully to entice more businesses to come on board to OJT. We also asked to be able to use some of our state rapid response money for incumbent worker training programs. We're not going to have the right now if we're granted that waiver. And I don't know, I think we'll probably be granted that one because there are several other states that have this waiver, as with the OJT reimbursement. So I don't think those will be an issue. And of course, the first 3 won't be an issue either.
I have a question on that. How would that be distributed to the local area? Would it be competitive, or how would we access that money?
Can you repeat the question? The question was how would money be distributed for the incumbent worker project? I imagine it's going to be competitive, is what I think. I haven't been in on those conversations, but I can ask what they're thinking.
Because, I mean, it'd be nice to know if we have a project, we wouldn't really be able to know if we could commit.
Right.
You know, so depending upon how long the process takes for a competitive part of it, might not do us a lot of good at the local level.
Right. Sorry, I'm writing for those on the phone. Okay. All right.
When do you think you'll hear on these? Or
They say 90 days.
Okay.
So hopefully within 90 days. We haven't gotten any feedback back other than we got your waivers and we'll get you an answer back in 90 days. One of them that I'm going to talk about, we did because we actually got them to expedite it. And that's the, we asked
to have Southern Illinois, those Southern Illinois counties that were damaged by the tornado, included in our current NEG disaster grant. And they have expedited that waiver. Data validation, that's probably a long shot, but what we did ask for is that because one, it would be more timely information because the data validation information is 3 or 4 years old. And also it sort of streamlines the process, and if they're out there but actually when I was doing the research on this one, this is actually just a TEGL. Data validation is not in the law or in the regs. So I don't really know, well, right, or we could just say this is how Illinois is going to do it. You know, I don't know. We probably won't get away with that either, but. Okay, and then the last one we asked for is the long-term dislocated worker project. And trees, you know, based on the OJT NEG, I guess with the problems with getting companies to participate in OJT, she wants to do a pilot where we can treat dislocated workers like incumbent workers, so we don't have all of the reporting requirements on them and the eligibility requirements. So that's what that waiver is about. I don't really know how that's going to play out, and quite honestly, they're not going to say yes to it because it's waiving eligibility, and they're very clear about not waiving eligibility. Pardon?
Some of the grants that come out, though, it seems like the eligibility is a little loose on some of those workforce innovation grants.
Oh, well, yes.
Except for the local.
Right. Well, exactly. Well, and you know, the WIF fund is working. That's what Secretary Solis said in her, the Workforce Innovation Fund is working. So.
It'd work better if it was given that.
Yeah. So, are there any questions about any of the waivers? All right. Now, there are 4 things that will for sure be different. And one thing, just to start out, we asked for an extension of our current state plan. So we just submitted that yesterday, so we're waiting to hear, about that. And within that, we also, speaking about waivers, asked for the extension of the incumbent worker ITA for youth and common performance. But back to the modifications plans for you all, there's going to be a new requirement that they just submit them electronically only now. There's going to be an org chart requirement. Also, you can't spend out of one fiscal year to pay for the future fiscal year. So there will be an attachment to the notice that will identify what funding you have available beginning 7/1 and the funding you have available beginning October 1. And then finally, this impacts the modification to the plan, but we're also changing the board policy, but we're removing that old policy that was under Ryan around the separation issue. We are going to allow boards to act as one-stop operators, but not for training or youth, for core and intensive services. And it's that one requirement that says with the governor's agreement, one-stop operators can.
Is that the firewall policy?
It's the firewall policy. It's the firewall issue.
How are we going to separate that?
You're going to, I guess, through monitoring. I mean, you don't have to do it. It's not something that you have to do. We're just going to remove the firewall requirement so that if anybody wants to take advantage of it, they can, and, we'll work with you around. Uh-huh. Yeah. So the notice will be issued probably in the next 2 weeks. I would imagine we're finalizing it now. We have a couple of questions about the firewall policy that we still kind of need to hash through. So once we identify that and adjust any policy accordingly, we'll send it out. And then Therese does have the 1E funding policy on it next week, because we tried to meet before she and Becky left for Baltimore, but it just didn't work out. Yes, sir?
On the 1E, now that you've lowered the threshold down to 50,
Uh-huh.
are you then withholding the full 25% of dislocated worker?
Yes.
Question.
Sorry, Bruce asked, since we've lowered the threshold, are we withholding the whole 25% for dislocated worker? And that answer is yes, we are. Also, just some additional things that we've added to the 1E, and I don't know if they'll stay, like I said, because we haven't sat down with Therese, but some of them were at her request. There's a new eligibility group, especially for veterans, so if you have a large population coming back in from the drawdown, you can apply for 1E money to serve them. There's the statewide requirement, like remember when Borders was going to do that big layoff? So if y'all want to come in, you might only have 10 here, 10 here, and 10 here, but if there's 50 together throughout the state, you guys can come in together and ask for 1E funding. There's also, we added another criteria around disasters, so that if there's something that, you have a tornado that doesn't get approved for FEMA, then you can come in for 1E funding for that. And also, I'm not sure that this will stay this way, but right now the way we have it, the policy written, is that in the case of a disaster, you wouldn't have to meet that 80% expenditure rate or the 40% training expenditure rate. And then the final thing is we did add a clause that, so we don't tie ourselves, in cases where just you're really short on dislocated worker money, Therese can grant an exception to go outside of the policy parameters or the eligibility parameters. So those are some of the things that are within the 1E funding. Is there any other questions about it? Yes?
I have a question going back. Could you repeat the response to one of the plan requirements on the funding, the advanced funding and the... What is that, or federal or state or?
Federal, I think.
Federal. Okay, okay. And will youth money be available then April 1, like it normally is? Okay. Okay.
Okay. Yes, Julie?
Question?
Sorry. On the amount that we have for our forward funding, can you repeat the percentages for adults? And also, can you find out if that is not our beginning out? A lot of us transfer from 1A to 1D. So is it based on our plan percentage, or is it based on the original allocation? Because, like I said, I know there's a few people in the room that'll transfer from one funding to the other.
So can you repeat that? I'm sorry.
First, I need to know what percentages for adults and dislocated worker, which you had, but I didn't catch them.
Oh, 7.64%.
7.64.
Right, and dislocated worker was 14.71. And for those on the phone, she's asking what the the percentages were on the expenditure levels by 12 for the first quarter. Julie's asking that. Okay. And then also to find out if we're to base that, if we're trying to figure out how much do we need, are we going to have enough? Is it based on our original allocation, or is it after those of us who transfer, is it based on the transfer amount? And then her follow-up was, is that number based on a transfer amount or original allocations? And I'll have to ask Ray that, or in Chuck. Okay. Okay. Yes, ma'am? So, on the if we had let's say we're putting together an outreach plan and we're working with our local media, if we have a reduced cost for buying that advertising for next year before July 1, we can charge it to the current year's budget. If it was reduced, if you could show a benefit for purchasing it before the fiscal year. And so now what it sounds like is no matter whether you could or couldn't, you have to charge it to after July 1 because the benefit is after July. This is going to, in some cases, increase some costs for folks. Right. Okay. Sometimes we can negotiate with our media to get a really good package. Okay. When did it start? Well, what we've done in the past is for July forward, but and that's fine. I just want to clarify because in the past we could charge 100% to prior to July 1 if we could show that it was financially more
Advantageous.
Yeah. Anyway, just see, and it's fine, whatever it is. I just want to know what it is. Okay, sure. All right. Any other questions? Okay. Thanks for having me.
Okay. I think Bill we're having a little internet difficulty, probably due to the speed at the hotel, so his screen seems to be frozen up, so we're not sure if people can chat with us. So we're going to unmute the phone, and if you have questions before Lisa runs off because you didn't get an opportunity to, communicate via chat, muted, don't get a lot.
Your microphone has been turned on.
I have one other quick question. Have you guys heard anything from the Department of Labor about that new tagline the President announced for the one-stop center? No, other than Jane Oates talking about it in a NASWA. Yeah, okay. No. Okay.
Okay, are there any questions from the people in their home offices for Lisa? Okay.
I'm sorry, but the controls are not there.
Just very quickly, I have still a couple of corrections to make to our directories, and as soon as they're done, I will email them to everyone. That's it.
All right, thank you. Short and sweet. Treasurer's report, Steve.
All right. We have an ending balance for February, first off, and that ending balance, total fund balance, was $161,589.23. And on the next page I handed out, we had a ending fund balance for March 31st of $161,282.02. Yesterday during the executive committee meeting, we voted to approve a payment that was over $2,000. Fiscal procedure for IWP states that the executive committee must approve any payment over $2,000. This payment was for graphic design to Teresa Smith, and it was made out to her for $3,575 and approved by the executive committee. Last but not least, I'm going to send out the dues probably end of May. We'll wait and see.
All right. For those of you in your home offices, I think we have lost the video. We apologize. I think it's got a lot to do with the internet speed here at the Hilton, but hopefully you can still hear us. All right, we'll move on to committee reports, programmatic. Nice out in the hallway. The programmatic committee, when we met yesterday, what we primarily did was to review all of our goals and priorities that we had for the year. I think most of the things have been completed. We are in the process now of getting everything to both Robin and Teresa to put up on the website, including the directory, and we are still missing several bios and photos of people, and we are threatening Mickey Mouse or Donald Duck as your picture if we don't get that done. The other thing that I would like to report is that you should be getting, those of you that attended the Greg Newton webinars and staff that registered should be getting an evaluation form, and that form questionnaire so that we can evaluate the effectiveness of the webinar series that we had. Okay, I believe that's it. Thank you, Kathy. Gary, Strategic Committee.
We'll make this quick also. We did have a short conversation yesterday. We talking about a number of things, but I just wanted to thank first Robin and her staff for putting together packets of information, because after the committee meeting and after executive committee, Robin and Pam and Mary Beth and Blanche and I did a walk around of the Stratton building and the Capitol and dropped off the packets of information for the legislative offices as well as the constitutional officers. So I want to thank those individuals. Request from the DCEO asking for a follow-up on recent reports from, I believe it was Seattle, Washington, and their ROI number. I know that was sent to DCEO, at least the recent information we had here, and I think they're kind of stepping back, at least that's what we're going to be doing, stepping back a little bit. Dave Stecklin's going to be contacting Mark Harris in the governor's office to say, you know, there's so many different ways that ROI is being calculated right now across the state and across the country. We need to have a commitment from the state to work together to come up with a formula that we all can agree upon. I know that Paula was talking about her at least in Peoria, their experience and the numbers they put together, which frankly fit more in keeping with the number we were seeing from the Seattle, Washington area. Dave is going to follow up with that, and we'll hopefully have more information coming at the May retreat. I don't know if Paul was going to speak, but I know one of the things we talked about was possibility of having Congressman Schock at the retreat. So she's following up with that. The other thing that we are going to be following up on, evidently Senator McCarter was going to offer up some type of a resolution on TANF here in the state. didn't seem like anyone really had any solid information regarding what that resolution may do or proposes, so we're going to follow up regarding that. We did talk a little bit more. We did have a conversation in the open session yesterday about the conference. We did have a little further discussion regarding that. And I am finalizing a resolution to go to the Illinois General Assembly for Workforce Development Week, that last week before Labor Day. So we'll have that hopefully filed in the next week in the General Assembly, and as soon as I get bill numbers, I will pass that along to everyone. So unless there are questions, I'd be happy to move on.
All right, thank you, Gary.
Thank you.
All right, on to the work group reports. Bruce, you had a performance meeting yesterday.
CEO, and indicated that on the week of April 19th, they're going to be having a conference call with DOL to set the groundwork for the negotiations for performance year 12, which we are currently in. DOL is looking at the actual trends that we have had over the years. They're going to most likely have to go up on the youth goals because we've been frozen at those for a while. We've actually been frozen at our PY 2009 goals, I believe, for the last several cycles. DOL is going to be starting with regression numbers from performance year 10. Those are generally lower than the performance levels that we're currently at. So there's a possibility we might be able to go down a little bit on our numbers, but that's not written in stone. These will be one-year negotiations. Historically, we've had two-year negotiations, but they're going to just be for 1 year. We ask that DCEO take into consideration in their negotiations with DOL some of the concerns that we've been having regarding the trade outcomes, the age of the customers. A lot of the trade customers are older. They don't necessarily result in a positive outcome, and since our funding has been going down, we don't have a lot of WIA dislocated worker customers or adult customers to offset those negatives. So they're going to set up a conference call with the Performance Task Force group after this meeting of the 19th. So I'll be contacting the group after that conference call that DCEO has with DOL, and they'll inform us of what the next steps are going to be. Exit in a number of areas, so they're looking to address that. What she indicated was that what the focus of this policy is going to be on is when you open up a service that keeps a customer participation, that continues their customer's participation. Currently, that's, for example, case management. You have to enter the actual case management service that is delivered and then close that service. And then every, I believe, 90 days, you have to enter a new case management service in order to keep that customer from having to qualify for exit. Now, we were concerned that this is going to create another redundant level of work for our case managers. She indicated it's going to be more of a checkbox situation instead of opening and closing service lines, but that remains to be seen. When the DCEO monitors were in our area last, that was created a couple of years ago, that defines what the services are and indicates whether it's a continuation service or not, whether it will continue participation, how frequently it has to be entered. And just as I reviewed that, it was very different from what we're currently operating under. So I believe that policy is going to be based on that, and that we'll just have to wait and see. We asked to have some input into the creation of that policy, and we'll see how that goes. But they're really focusing on getting people exited that they feel need to be exited. So She also asked that we put credentials in IWDS, even though there is no credential attainment measure for performance. That could be something that's coming down the road, and I would also just add my 2 cents to that. And even though there's no credential attainment measure for performance, we did have 2 findings for customers who were exited without credentials. It was a We had 2 findings in our monitoring for exiting customers who did not have credentials.
Exiting customers have credentials.
That's correct.
How could that be a finding?
Can you explain that?
No, I can't. A credential, and that became a finding. And then there were 2 youth customers that were exited out of the 35 that they reviewed that did not earn a credential, and that became a finding. So there was 2 findings for the same thing, but they split it between adult and dislocated workers.
Reported that they were findings, that they were credentials?
They were in the letter. They were in the...
No, they reported from your office as having received credentials.
Credentials, and then they wound up not getting them, or what?
No.
That's the only way I could...
No.
Otherwise, it'd be a negative
Actually, there was
payment.
1 in each category that did earn a credential, but was not the credential that they were in training for. For example, we had 1 customer who earned a CNA certificate and then went on to the nursing program but didn't complete.
Right.
And then we had another youth who earned their GED in the program and then did not complete the training program they were put in.
How were they
So they were not entered.
I don't get that.
That would be, was that a...
We were told that we needed to look at our assessment process to ensure that we were putting people in who were going to be successful.
Life happens, though.
That's a...
Great.
Did you ask Neely about that?
No, no. But she was asking that we put the credentials in because down the road there's a possibility that we could have the credential attainment rate as a performance measure under the common measures. And I just wanted to throw that in that, hey, it's also a good idea because, it could end up being a finding.
Wow.
And unless there's any questions, that's all the answers that I have.
Okay, thank you very much, Bruce. Okay, Robin?
About that, right?
I just have a couple things to report. We obviously finished our annual report. It is on the website. It's under, it's a PDF file on the home page in the What's New section, and it's also in the Resources section on the website. We completed the business labor brochure as well, and that is in the same section, What's New, and in Resources. We have extra copies here for those of you who are here, and for those of you at home who would like to have some additional copies, I can mail those to you. Our website is live. I think at our last meeting it was just sort of in limbo being updated. It is live now, and it is illinoisworkforce.net. We've got our member contact information, we've got resources, what's new, we've got our calendar, and we also have a members only section. And when you go into members only, you type in TEAM, T-E-A-M, IWP, and that'll get you to the minutes and the member bios that Kathy Day was speaking about. We're going to have the acronyms, the training manual, and the DCEO contact information, and it's all ready to go is what I hear, and so we'll have that updated in the next few weeks. So I would encourage all of you to go on the site. If you see anything that you'd like to add, please let me know. and please use it. It's got a lot of good, useful information on it, and we're excited about it. And that's all I have.
Great. Maybe
Thank
at our
you.
July meeting, we can try to do a live walkthrough the
Certainly,
website. So.
certainly.
We should share that with Lisa. Friends. Sure, where do they have a website?
I'm not- Yes, please do. We'll be working on the map with the contact information as well in the next few weeks, but we've had quite a few changes. So we won't make as many copies, but we'll have that for you in July.
Great. Thanks,
All right,
Robin.
thank you.
And Blanche, you're going to do the national reports?
Meeting, and if the minutes could reflect that that's a coordinated hosted between GLEDA and NAWB, and DOL is going to be invited to participate. We're looking at a Thursday, Friday combination, mostly on Thursday, very focused on the Boards of Excellence initiative that NAWB discussed, and GLEDA had adopted that as one of our priorities. So we're encouraging, obviously, workforce board chairs and board leadership to participate. And then we've also asked the Department of Labor to host a discussion on what they're finding in state monitoring, because there's a number of issues that are coming up, and one of the things that seems to be happening are findings that on the local level, even though the monitoring is a state monitoring, and numbers of things that they were sharing with us just in passing were things that were like, but we've been doing this for 16 years this way. So we thought it would be very helpful if we would have them just come and share this and make it more of a working session. And so we would invite, leadership to come, directors and their leadership team to come, management team. That's probably going to be Friday morning. We're working out the details right now, and NAWB should be sending everything out because they're managing the hotel and registration and everything. We have some folks on the GLEDA board working with Ron on a couple of workshops, but I don't know what those are going to be yet. And then the only other thing I wanted to mention is just I'll do the NWA piece too, that we also are sharing the information that IWP discussed in Pam's presentation with David for NWA priorities. So we're consistent in our message.
Right. And the voice of Illinois is being heard.
Yep.
So. All right. Thank you very much. Any other business? Any public comment? Earlier.